Great Society Ministries, and now it's time for another impromptu yet informed rant. This one will pertain to a historical figure and in my estimation, infamous and problematic historical figure known as Khalid Bin Walid, or Khalid Ibn Walid. He was a quote-unquote companion of the Prophet Muhammad, yet he started out as one of his most implacable enemies, and I think he ended in the same way in his opposition to Ali, the son of Abu Talib. And the reason I say he's infamous is because he has one of the most sinister quotes in history, speaking of himself and his cohorts or his retinue or people around him. He said, he told it because he was one of the jihadists who helped conquer what's known as Levant in English, but in Arabic is referred to as Asham, basically Greater Syria. At some point during his conquest, he said that we love death like you love life. Speaking to Christians, and you'll see periodically a Salafi terrorist or a quote unquote so-called Sunni terrorist quote that, and it's really astounding how this individual is held in high esteem and looked to as a positive example when his life was that of a constant bloodshed and turmoil. And that quote, because what that quote does now, if I were a neutral observer from, I like when people use this example because I guess it's apt of, if I was from another planet and you gave me religious figures and I heard that sort of quote, because that can't even be taken out of, how people say things are taken out of context, or I didn't mean it that way. There is no other way to mean that. And you can, and look at the results. Look at the results of it. Salafis like to distance themselves from Islamic State or ISIS. I don't prefer to call them Daesh because I think when one does that, it gives credence to people who are similar to them, but not as violent and not as politically active. Because to me, it doesn't matter. If you have that same ideology of the Salafism, you're still a detriment to the rest of humanity. And in the case of Salafists, they're even detrimental to people they purportedly share the same sect with. So in other words, Salafis are actually a threat and a danger to quote-unquote Sunnis or so-called Sunnis. They're, and I mean the historical record attests to that. Lawrence Arabia, which is what we prefer to call Saudi Arabia, when it was established on the deaths and the subjugation of quote-unquote Sunni Muslims. So it's just something I was thinking about today. This figure who is held in high regards by the majority sect and by the likes of ISIS, and it's unfortunate, but he's one of those individuals that they'll tell you he's beyond reproach and you can't criticize or talk about him, which puts him on the same level as a saint. How Catholics have various saints like Saint Andrew and these figures that they revere that aren't Jesus, but they hold him in very high regard and would not take kindly to people even criticizing, although they wouldn't be as violent about it. But you get it's interesting that this guy has gone on and become a figure that's admired by so many people. And if you were trying to recruit people into that faith, and you're doing dawah, I don't know how they sell that quote. He's one of the guys I think that they probably sweep under the rug until someone's deeply indoctrinated already. Then you hear about Khalid Bin Walid, the man who loves death more than Christians love life. It's really sad, but when you have these infamous figures like this in history, and for some people they're heroes, it's not good. And I think I'll conclude that video, and we'll talk about more controversial religious figures in the future.